We've made several iterations through this this drawing in the assembly. One of the things that would probably be helpful here is to put the thread. So if I go between the two cosmetic threads, I can get the 1/8 or 1" 8 2A, and that just goes back to the dim that was called out in the cosmetic thread. And let's go add the to a depth of 1.75, and that will complete that out. Alright, so kind of position that where it looks good. Alright, so one of the things that we'll need to do is, finishing out our group, is looking at completing the title block and those types of items. So if I go back to the drawn by, I can put my initials in, and tab will update. Comment. Don't see the date there, so apparently I didn't build that into the sheet format. But the comments are over here. So let's just go ahead and hit that one. If I come back, notice that because that was a document field that I put into the properties, it's going to show up on each of the sheets. So that would be something I'd want to consider adjusting with the date, is putting it to where I could utilize it in the file properties. Alright, so adding materials. Well, let's take a minute and I'll run through all of the items. So here's another place where I might want to add a little bit more detail. So if I go F6 on the keyboard and turn the filters on, I already have the center lines. There aren't any center lines on this drawing, but what I'm looking for is the balloons, notes, and balloon callouts. So if I do a window pick, I should be able to get, well, at least the balloons. And that one goes to Dems. I have not applied any to the bill of materials, so we'll come find the bill of materials, put it under the Dems. Maybe we make a notes, or take the notes layer and pull that one out. Alright, so in this case I would have to manually enter the date. Scroll up on that a little bit. Yep, see if that shows up. Alright, so that's not going to go to each of the sheets. We activated the title block so I could overwrite, but because that's tied to a field, it would write to the file properties, which would overwrite the other sheets. So if I want to do something different as far as the drawn by, I need to pick that up as a separate item. Alright, so let's go through and look at the sheets. And we have the sheet metal part. Alright, and then this is coming up with the assembly on each sheet. So what I really wanted was to have that tied back through to the part. So let's double check. If I come over to the properties. Alright, so this is that same sheet specified in document properties. So it's apply changes. That brings up the wheel support. I thought I had that corrected, but maybe not. And don't think there were any other. Oh, I was on the same page. So let's go stationary arm. And I'm just doing these one at a time. I think we could try the select sheets to modify. I'm just making sure that those get unchecked as I go. Okay, and then the first one, of course, is the assembly. So even if I uncheck it, it should still be the assembly. Alright, so if I go back to the window, go to my assembly, pick up its file properties. We haven't added anything as a default, so we'll pick up maybe a part number. And I want to go back into, see if any of these, so these did have a few, the ME311-1, and so the top level part number, ME311, at least they all look like they're going to be a top level assembly. And then we can go to the revision, and we'll just make this revision A. We haven't added a material yet, so once I place the material and a finish, and we'll probably just go raw or maybe eventually update that to paint. And notice that there are, since there aren't any configurations here, I'm putting this under the custom configuration. And I may go back and change the wheel bracket over, but still that would probably be raw, still be steel, still be all of those things. So it's just a question in the as to what we're going to do with it. When we get over to customizing this, doing a little bit more, and go ahead and collapse the exploded view, then we'll start adding our materials. So the wheel bracket, and I was in the file properties, so actually this one does not get a material. It gets a not applicable or something along those lines. Alright, and then this one's been applied as the 1020. So if we open that up, let's go ahead and see. So even though I applied the material at one point, I'm not going to be able to utilize that, and so that was the, bring it back over to the double check. Alright, so this was the wheel bracket, part number ME311-1, and then we can pull up the revision and the finish, and then this one we'll use as raw. Then we can go to material, hitting a few of those buttons, so it shows up as AISI, and I don't think there's anything in there that I really have to have, so let's go ahead and save that. Alright, so the check is that I come back to the drawing, and then we find our sheet 2, and the material is now populated, the finish is populated, the rev, and everything else looks pretty good except for adding the date. So I'm going to save this. Alright, so we would go through and we would add those individually to each part. And so I open the part from the assembly. I can also right click and open the part from the drawing, from the bill of materials. Just about anywhere you can identify a part, you can open that up. Alright, so one thing that has been bothering me, I did lose I got the 1.25 there. The radius for the bolt circle, that one's a little hard to read. I probably would prefer that as a diameter. So we can put that in as a diameter. If I wanted to change the liters, we can have it just point to the geometry rather than going all the way across. So that little line through the center goes away. Alright, so the through holes, based on what this thing is doing. Well, let's go ahead and close some of these. Let's take a step back here, because this was my purchased part. And we're going to go with the part number. So the pivot shaft was ME311. You can add the rest of these on your own and kind of build out this these tables. So that gave us the part number, and I know I'm doing these out of order. Finish. And earlier there was a we have a purchased part number. Okay, so since I just have the number, I want to utilize that. So I picked up the tubing, and when we fly this in, we have the 1/8 inch wall thickness. I'm going to grab that part number and identify it as a group. So Control C, and because it's a link, if I put the link into the let's see, that's going to be McMaster, MCMA, however you want to abbreviate it. If I put that link actually into the drawing, we'll try it both ways. I can have it be a functional link from the parts. The only reservation, real reservation, is HTML links within our documents. Somehow that has a little bit of a security risk ring to it. So let's just bring that down. Alright, so if I link to the property in this group, model found here, and we go find the number, okay, that will give me that one. I think that's still on my clipboard, so if I was to paste it, and then we hover over, and let's see if it's a copy link. Copy. Alright, so that one's not coming through. Oh, well, that makes sense. So let's back up a little bit. And over here, we're going to insert a hyperlink. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick on that. Let's see, this is a 1 foot piece, 45, 4.5 cents per foot. Alright, so I'm going to grab the hyperlink to the location, hit OK, and now that whole thing becomes something that you can click on to get to that part number. Alright, so the item updates, and then there we go. Alright, so back to this. Based on the assembly, kind of shuffle through a few of these, and I can pull this one up. Whatever is mounting to this, the through holes, there's not enough on the back side for a clearance for a nut. There's not geometry for a flathead. There's not threads for a stud or any kind of screw. So since we don't have the mating part, we really don't know what this is going to be. But we can go look at some of the things that are available. And so what I was thinking is, if we needed a wheel stud, I just pulled up the Advanced Auto Parts. Since I finally think I found something that McMaster doesn't carry, or if they do, I don't know what it's called. They have these for sheet metal, which operates under the PIM. And so if we went to press these in, we would need that little extra head relief to build it out. For the wheel studs in McMaster, kind of the same terminology. We got hex, we've got shoulder bolts, but they really didn't have anything that picked up. The axles didn't do it. Let's see. So that geometry didn't really work for me. I also went through, as part of my my process, to look in the tool library. So countersunk, hex, as you go through, is there anything in here that would work? All right, so optionally, if I was to open this up, our next design review, going through the geometry, this would be something that I would want to highlight. So I'm holding down the control button, selecting those faces, and then under the appearance, I just want the face, not the body of the part, the feature. I could maybe do the feature, but I think face is probably the safest. We'll go with this display state, and usually put it in a nice bright color so it grabs your attention. I go ahead and hit OK. Now if I wanted to make a note, and let's see where our annotation is going to be located, so insert annotation, and we'll just place a note. Determine meeting part and fastener. Alright, something that denotes we have an issue. So that's one way of pulling that information. And let's see if it's in here. Under the tabs, I may be thinking of 2021. Now there's our markup. If I activate the markup and go into that mode, then if we're in draw, now if I was on a touch screen, I'd be able to touch screen this. Alright, and then the note that gets associated to this is along the same things. What does this do? Alright, so something that brings out, and then I'm still in the draw, so maybe Control Z that one, or not. How about an erase? Alright, so we want to get out of the markup, and then what that's going to do is over on the markups, or on the feature tree, we're going to see the markups, and those notes are now going to be something that we can hide, show, suppress. Alright, so as we go through, we have some under the annotation. Let's see, which one did that show up for? In the notes, I want to say we can do the same thing, which we'd have to be careful of because the cosmetic thread shows up as an annotation as well. So one of these. Alright, looking right at it. Oh, there we go. Top level annotation. So that'll make it go away, but if there was a cosmetic thread like around the 632 there, that would also make it go away. Alright, so if I go back over to the drawing and we go back to that sheet, I'm really not going to see the annotation unless I put it in. It's pretty much just occurring in the part, but I do want to check and see if it comes over for the assembly. Notice those highlighted in red, so that gives me a good reminder when we're reviewing the assembly. That's a high priority question that we need to answer. Are we going to change those over to threads? In which case, if I open that back up, it's already open. I can switch it that way. We come over to the ½ inch. The nice thing about the hole wizard is that when I edit that feature, I can switch it to a threaded hole, pick the ½ or some, I mean, as big as this is, the 1" 8, that's going to be there's going to be a lot of, you're able to carry a lot of weight, but this hub is pretty small for the point-to-point base circle, so I don't know that we would need as much thread. So there's still questions outstanding on this assembly as we go further into the optimization. But I think we've got a pretty good result here, and we'll call it good right there.